from John 8. Early in the morning, Jesus came again to the temple. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and making her stand before all of them, they said to him, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. What do you say?" Jesus bent down and wrote with his finger on the ground. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let anyone among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." When they heard it, they went away one by one, and Jesus was left alone with the woman standing before him. Jesus straightened up and said to her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, sir." And Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go your way, and from now on, do not sin again."
I suppose he were writing. Could have been Egyptian for all I knew. I didn't blame him for blanking the holy mafia, though. They might have been after my blood, but they wanted him to convict himself much more, though I never realised that at the time. It's painful, even now. But it's so long ago. I was just a girl. I moved away afterwards. Fresh start, you know. If only I hadn't got engaged. Oh, betrothed people can't do or allow certain things to happen. My intended Jeremiah were older. He still had some teeth. But getting a wife, that was probably just top of his bucket list. Now I can't really blame him. I'd consented to the arrangement after all, so I become the property, as good as transferred. He hardly knew me, but he weren't going to let anyone else have me. And our God-given law, that were on his side. I met Sammy at the wellhead one hot, breezy afternoon. He were driving a train of donkeys back to Jericho after delivering goods in Jerusalem. It weren't his donkeys. He were just the hired help, not much older than me. I'd never seen him before, though. But, come to think of it, couldn't see him then. Some dust had blown into me eye and tears were rolling down my face as I was rubbing at it with me eye with me scarf. Oh, dear. "Here, let me," a voice said. "Trust me, I'm a doctor." His dreams. Donkey doctor, maybe. But he took my water pitcher and he set it down, tilts up my chin to the light and wipes the grit out. That were how it began. Just a brief encounter. Never expected to see him again, though Ma noticed I were going to the well more willingly of a sudden. He reappeared a whole week later. It were a regular run, see. A harmless flirtation at first, but gradually. Nobody but geriatric had ever noticed me. As the eldest of 5 daughters, you can imagine how my parents were desperate to marry me off. Oh, they'd done their best. I knew this were wrong, but I couldn't help myself. Forbidden fruit, maybe. What happened? Well, that was probably inevitable. I was naive. Well, Sam probably had some girl in every watering hole from here to the coast. You don't want the gory details. But someone knew, and they repeated it to the wrong ears. Suddenly, I'm discovered behind the donkey sheds, mortified. Don't cover it. Jeremiah frog-marched me to his religious cronies. Aha, they said, ideal test case for the fake rabbi, Jesus from Galilee. Oh, I'd never barely heard that name before. Oh, we had heard one or two rumours about some religious rabble-rouse on the go. Positively gleeful, the Moral Compass Brigade whisked me straight to the temple, flinging me down in front of him like some pickpocket before a Roman magistrate. Sam had vanished. Funny that. Jesus couldn't have looked more bored as they recited my offences. He just bent down and started doodling in the dirt between his feet. Oh no, the hi-hats weren't having that. They carried on. I was sobbing, I was terrified. Their grip was digging into my arms. I might never see my family ever again, or anyone. Eventually then, Jesus straightens up and coolly invites someone who's squeaky clean to throw the first stone at me. The outraged old men, appalled fathers and disgusted brothers all fell silent. Their mouths fell open. The only sound was of rocks being discreetly dropped. Jesus went back to his pavement drawing. Sandals shuffled. My arms were let go. One by one, the gang dispersed. He looks up at me then, for the first time. He looked into my very heart with those knowing eyes. He'd no need to pass judgment. The disgrace I'd heaped on people I loved, even self-righteous old Jeremiah, that were dawning on me. My decency, my self-respect, they were in tatters. Yet this Jesus, whoever he was, patiently gives me a second chance. Heaven knows why it mattered so much. It were beyond a reprieve. I'd wanted to make my own choices, please myself. Commandments? What commandments? Oh, my first offence were obviously dishonouring my parents. Never mind the adultery bit. Jesus didn't condemn me, weak and wayward daughter of Eve. But somehow I knew he had every right. Human relationships are tricky. Friendships, partnerships, interfaith, even international ones. They are multi-layered, complex and fragile. We start learning the ropes from the playground onwards. Some of us will, over time, wise up. Others never quite get the hang of things. Most of us are somewhere in between. We're all so different that it's just easy to get things wrong, and far more difficult to stop and consider or imagine the likely consequences. The ancient Israelite people were probably no worse than any others, but their relationship with God through his agent Moses had produced a code of conduct, commonly called the Ten Commandments, to help them negotiate this very business. These instructions, including how they should relate to God himself, formed the core of their faith. But they were later expanded into a vast compendium of do's and don'ts, mostly the latter. In some ways, that made things worse. When Jesus arrived on the scene, the intricacies of all that law seemed perfect weapons against a dubious liberal with no recognised credentials or authority. His opponents were delighted to obtain a real-time, live miscreant of the most sordid variety, just to challenge him. You can almost sense Jesus' irritation as he is harried by these law enthusiasts. For him, the essential commandments can easily be summarised: love and respect God above all things, but behave likewise to his other, equally loved human children. In this regard, Exhibit A, inexperienced, thoughtless, or wilful, has clearly failed to some degree. But then, so have her accusers.